All right. So last week, do a little recap. Um, I covered how moving to Maricopa made me feel as a child. And then I also covered how finding my voice, making myself seen and heard in a way that stopped my predator from sexually abusing me. So lots of growing up happened in the last episode. I feel like lots of growing up happened my whole life, but the last episode I really talked about how I took my safety into my own hands and I let my voice be heard to the person that was abusing me, and it changed a lot for me. I overcame different adversities here and there, but for the most part, it was something that gave me a sense of safety, I guess, for the first time, really. And it got me in a place where I felt like I could finally get control, but along with that came some other things, which we'll start getting into now. Me finding my voice might have been a good thing and a bad thing, because then I let my voice start being heard in a little bit different ways, which didn't turn out to be too conducive to behavior growth or anything really positive for this next period of my life. So we'll get into it. Left off with us moving to Derby Acres, and then we moved to Taft. So all these towns, just to give you guys a bit of perspective from those of you who aren't from there or have never visited there, don't. Just kidding. So Taft and Maricopa are about 7 miles apart, and then Derby Acres is about 12 miles outside of Taft. So all little towns, right outside of Taft being the biggest one. And so they're all in close proximity. So it's not like moving from, big cities to small cities. They're all incorporated with one another, and all the kids go to school together and know one another. So, my mom was dating Dennis at this time, and we moved to Taft right before school started. Sean and I were still in high school, and it was about 2 weeks before the school started. Stool, aka another word for shit. School's getting ready to start though, and I went and visited a friend that lived out of town, and I was gone for a week. And so when I leave, everybody lives in our house. It's my mom, Dennis, me, Sean, Tiff, my brother Audie, and my cousin Adam, all in this fucking house, this little tiny house. So I go to visit my friend, and I come back after this week, and the only people that live there are Audie, my mom, and myself. So apparently, my grandparents were still living in Maricopa at the time, and Dennis and my mom went out to visit my grandparents and have dinner, and Dennis had been drinking, which, common denominator in a lot of these relationships, my personal relationships and my mother's. So they are on their way back from Maricopa, and he had been drinking, and my mom asked him if he wanted her to drive. And he was upset, got angry, was like, no, whatever. So they commence the argument, and at some point he grabs my mom while he's driving this back road. So he was driving the back road from Maricopa to Taft, which is same distance, but it's a lot windier, a lot less cars traveled on it. So people would drive that road when they're drunk, so they were avoiding cops. So that's why they were on the back road. So my mom was kind of freaked out that he was driving like that, and so he grabbed her and had her in a headlock, and he took his hat off and he was smacking her with his hat and yelling at her, calling her a fucking bitch and all these different things. And so, they get back to town. I don't really know what happened because I wasn't there, like I said. But I find out later that my mom tells my brother, Audie, about what happened. And so him and his best friend, Donnie, decide that they're going to, you know, take care of the situation and that nobody's going to put their hands on my mom. And so, I don't know where Dennis was, but he called up to the house, was threatening my brother. So my brother told him to come up there. And he came up there and he had a gun. And him and Donnie were outside, and we had this like empty field next to our house. And Audie and Donnie went outside, and Dennis thought that, you know, obviously things were going to get out of hand. And so he was under the influence of alcohol again and tried to run my brother over and Donnie, and things were just crazy. And so I come home, and all of this had been done while I was gone, and Mom's single again. And now it's just me, Audie, and Mom again. And I'm like, wow, what the fuck happened? But nobody tells me all these things until later, obviously. But that was the end of Dennis and my mom. And, you know, unfortunately, more kids brought into the mix. But to this day, all of us are close still and love one another. And the things that happened between our parents did not affect us. I'm still very close with Sean, Tiffany, and yeah, we're good. Our parents, not so good. But that was, Jesus, back in, you know, 93, 94. So, that was the end of that. My mom's still working at the White Elephant, which is a steakhouse in Taft. And I'm starting high school. So off I go to a new high school. Once again, don't have any friends. Shauna's back at fucking square one, freshman year, no friends, Taft High, here we go. And the first week I was there, if you're familiar with Taft High, we had a, you know, staircase, flight of stairs going up to our lunchroom, cafeteria. And one day I was walking up the stairs to the cafeteria, and this girl's walking by, and she says, "Hey, who are you?" I'm like, "I'm Shauna." She's like, "Are you new here?" I said, "Yep." She's like, "You got any friends?" "Nope." "Come on." So she said, "Come on, I'm Amy." So enters Amy Letterman. Hey, still one of my BFs to this day. That's my girl, that's my dog. That was my first friend my age at Taft High. So 31 years ago, going strong, baby. And so she was my friend my freshman year. We hung out a lot. I also had a couple girls I knew that were friends with my brother, Audie and Justin, Karis and Andrea. They took me under their wings. We had a class together, and so they were always super cool to me and made the transition a little bit easier. But back in my days in Maricopa, my homegirl Letty had started some beef with some girls from Taft, right? And so I didn't know any of these people. I was new to Maricopa. Letty was my homegirl, so just, you know, hanging out, whatever. Well, of course, I think it was over a boy is what it all started over at the softball fields in Taft. And so they'd be prank calling each other, you know, out in Maricopa, Taft, whatever. Well, I started being a part of this in junior high, right? Just didn't know I was going to be going to Taft High. So, you know, I let my as my mom would say, my alligator mouth overload my hummingbird ass. So I'm not thinking I'm ever going to be in Taft, right? So in junior high, I was talking mad shit to some girls that I didn't even know who they were in Taft, right? So then freshman year comes around. I'm in my English class. Miss Hess, what up? And sitting there, roll call. Boop, boop, boop. My last name's Christian, so they get to Shauna Christian. Yep. me here. And then this other girl says, what's your name? And I said, Shauna Christian. And she said, oh, so you're Shauna Christian. And I was just like, uh-oh. Yep, that's me. And she's just like, okay. Well, you're going to get your ass beat. Come again? Say what? Je ne sais quoi? So, come find out, when I was in 7th grade talking shit, then freshman year rolls around. Well, the girls that I had talked shit to go to school at Taft High, and they remembered my name. So, our lockers were stacked 3 high. We had, one on top, one in the middle, one on bottom. Mine was a middle locker, and this girl Nancy was the locker below mine and to the left. And Nancy was one of the young ladies that I had spoken so much shit to about wanting to kick her ass and not knowing who she was fucking with, and all these, bright, bold things that I had to say as a 12-year-old were coming back to haunt me as a 14-year-old. So Nancy had an older sister, and then also another girl, Charity, that I also talked shit to. And she also had an older sister. And then there was another girl, Chastity, which wasn't really involved but hung out with them. They had their little clique. All of us did. Well, except for me at this point. But anyways, so I come to my locker one day, and boom, after this girl tells me that I'm going to get my ass kicked, and I got these 5 girls standing there, these 5 Hispanic girls standing there, and I'm like, I can't approximate my weight, but I'm telling you, it wasn't a lot, okay? I was tall. I was 5'10" as a freshman, so I was super tall, but I probably weighed 100 pounds if I was lucky, soaking wet. That annoying thing that, everybody says as an older person, and I guess I'm an older person now. So I'm standing there, and they don't say nothing, and they're just staring me down, and I'm nervous, to say the least, but I don't show that I'm nervous, right? So, go home, tell my brother, dude. So I paid attention to the girl's name when they did roll call. And her name is Nancy Young. Nancy, if you're out there and you're listening, what up, girl? So I just am like, dude, I'm going to get my ass kicked. Straight up going to get my ass kicked. There's 5 of them and 1 of me, and I don't know anybody. I've got 1 friend, and not good enough friend to be asking to take on, the new little group of people I pissed off. So I'm just like, goddamn. And my brother's like, you better not be a pussy. You better, if they fight, you better fight. And I'm like, I will, duh. But 5-on-1 odds aren't that great. Not sure if you guys know that. It's not good. So I'm like, damn. So things are intense at school. I still don't make any friends. Amy's my only homie. I've got Karis, I've got Andrea, but that's it. So my brother had some friends that were older, and one of them comes to the house, and he tells him, hey, my little sister is having some problems with some chicks at the high school, and she, she thinks they're gonna jump her. And so Danny Gonzalez, what up? Also, if you're listening, Danny, what's cracking, dog? So Danny is like, who is it? And I was like, oh, this girl Nancy and her homegirl Charity and Chastity. I didn't know who was who, I just was saying names at this time because I didn't have any of these other girls in classes. I had only had Nancy in a class. And so he's like, what? And he was dating Charity. If I'm remembering correctly, he was dating Charity. And he said, what? That's my girlfriend or whatever, and I'll fucking put her in check. Don't trip. So I was like, all right, cool. Because I had known Danny at this point for 3 or 4 years. And he was cool with my brother, my cousins, and whatever. So turns out one of the girls was dating one of my brother's homeboys. And so literally after that, the girls never, ever gave me a problem. It was like fairy dust was sprinkled and all was good in the world and all was right. And so that was cool. Freshman year kind of went off without a hitch. My mom starts dating a new dude, Lee, and Lee has a son that is a year younger than me, Matt. And so another new relationship, another new kid in our life. And so Audie and I are staying at this house on, in Taft, and my mom is starting to get serious with her boyfriend, so she's staying with the boyfriend all the time. Audie's 19, 20, I'm 14. And I started, fucking off in school, getting in trouble, new school again, I'm just not stoked, don't have friends, and it's just dumb, and I'm pissed. And then my brother gets an apartment, so it's like, oh my god, now my brother's leaving and getting his own place, and I have to move in with my mom, her boyfriend, and his kid. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, another fucking family dynamic that I get used to. And so anyways, they're dating, things are cool for a while. Like, that was probably the most stable home life I had had to that point, with my mom being in a relationship and the guy being like grounded as far as a good provider. He had a good job, and he was, for the most part, like a pretty cool dude. There were some things there that I didn't appreciate at times, and I'm trying to be careful because I haven't really talked about this with Matt, and Matt and I still are close as well. But, there were times I felt like that Lee definitely used being nice to me in ways to hurt Matt's feelings. And I don't know if Matt feels that way, so I guess that's something that I would talk to him about. But, for the most part, things were okay living there. We lived there for about a year and a half, and my mom was coming home one night, and our garage had a few steps going up into the house, and it was dark, and the little light that comes on when you pull into your garage. So it had turned off, and she was going up those steps, and she fell. She was coming home from work, and so she had fallen. And I was staying the night at one of my friend's house out in Maricopa, and Matt was home, but he was asleep, and he slept like the dead. So she falls in the garage coming up the steps, breaks her leg, and crawls in the house, wakes Matt up, and Matt goes and gets the neighbors, and the neighbors come over, call 911, whatever. And my grandparents came and got me at, I'll never forget, 4:44 in the morning out at my friend's house. And we go to the hospital, and she's laid in there. I didn't know what had really happened. My grandparents didn't know a lot of details. Like I said, no cell phones these days. So she's laying in the hospital, and I get in there, I'm nervous, I'm worried. I'm riding from Taft to Bakersfield, which is or Maricopa to Bakersfield, which is about 40 miles at the time. And I walk in her hospital room, and it just overwhelms me. I feel hot. I don't know what's happening. I pass out. But next thing I know, I'm cool. Everything's cool. She's like, I'm fine. Don't worry. Nothing's wrong. They're just gonna, whatever. So anyways, she has surgery on her leg and was in a cast. Well, this brings about a weird situation in the household because, and this is the first time that Lee was ever really disrespectful to me, or my mom in front of me. I don't know what went on behind closed doors. I never really heard them fight. They seemed to get along pretty well for the most part, so I thought. And so I find out that, Lee's working shift work. He drinks, my mom's smoking weed, and one night, me, Matt, my mom are sitting in the living room. Matt's laying on the love seat. My mom's laying on the couch. She has her legs stretched out, and I'm sitting at her feet. And Lee comes in the living room, and he's pissed off. Like, you could just tell he wasn't in a good mood. You can tell that there was some tension. Matt and I had no idea what was going on. Not sure about any of that. And then they start arguing, and he brings up how my mom's not having sex with him in front of me and Matt. Meanwhile, I'm 14, 15. Matt's 14 as well. Matt is he's just a few months younger than me. But he was a grade in school younger than me. And so my mom gets pissed that he brings this up, and she's like, really, you're going to talk about this in front of our kids? Like, what is wrong with you? And like, are you like, and they're yelling, they're fucking screaming at each other now at this point. And first time that me or Matt, that I had ever seen, I'm not sure that Matt had, but I don't think that he had ever seen them fight either. And so he kicks the table, our coffee table, and it literally like flies onto the couch where Matt's at, the love seat. And so then he's yelling, so I jump up because my mom can't do anything. She's got a broken leg. So I jump up, and he acts like he's gonna slap me. Like, I jump up, and he fucking raises his hand at me like he's gonna slap me. Well, he's taller than me. He's a lot bigger than me. And it just, I was in fight or flight mode. And I said, hit me, motherfucker. You like to fucking hit women and girls? Fucking hit me and see what happens, you piece of shit. I said, fucking hit me. And my mom's screaming at me, Shauna, shut up. Shauna, shut up. Go to your room. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not leaving her out there fucking sitting on the couch. So I'm like, hit me, motherfucker. Fucking hit me. And so she's like, call your grandparents. So I went, grabbed the phone while I'm screaming at him. I call my grandparents. My grandparents come to Taft. They pick me and my mom up. And my mom, having, issues from being beaten from a previous spouse and just her whole life by her parents and different people that she had been with in relationships, she decided that was it. She was done. So, me and my mom move out just that fast. Everything done. Everything gone. Had nothing. Went back to Maricopa with nothing. We moved in with him. And when we moved in with him, he had everything. He bought me bedroom furniture, Lee did. And then, when we moved out, we didn't take shit. And eventually, he had a furnished house. So I think my brother took the furniture from our old house for his apartment. And we just kind of moved into Lee's house and used his home and his furniture. So we moved back out to my grandparents. So my mom is sleeping in the spare bedroom in my grandparents' house. My grandparents are sleeping in their bedroom, and I'm sleeping on the couch. And so we lived there for a few months. And sophomore year of high school starts. So sophomore year comes around, I am more comfortable, had been at the school for a year, knew a few people at this point. Amy and I had stayed close. And so sophomore year starts, and I am in PE, second day of school. And the way that our PE class worked is we had numbers outside that we would line up for roll call. And so the teachers would assign you, or our teacher assigned us in alphabetical order, and then you'd be given a number, and that's your number for the rest of the year. And that's how they take roll and blah, blah, blah. So it's sophomore year, and Taft High is actually a really bitchin' school. It has, it had a lot of money from the oil and gas industry, and just actually had really great sports programs and facilities as far as our gyms, our swimming pools, equipment, all of those things. We actually, for being a small town, had great access to sports programs and just the things that the school offered for us to be involved in. So our swimming pool is right outside of our gym at the high school. So lots of cement, lots of echoiness. And our teacher at the time was doing roll call, so I'm on number 7. I believe it was 7 or 9. And because my last name starts with a C, so I'm pretty up in the alphabet, right? So she's calling roll call, telling everybody what their numbers is. We have to stay on our numbers till she's done and verifies everything. And so she's calling people's names, and she gets to a name, and she calls Isabel Figueroa. So me, being the smart ass that I am, and the loudmouth, and the attention seeker that I was, I start yelling like an asshole. I start yelling, Figaro, 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 Figaro. Well, it's like echoing, through this area we're in. And so I just hear, fuck you. Don't fucking make fun of my name. And so I turn around, and there's a set of bleachers that go down like towards the pool area. And there's this girl walking up. And I wasn't doing it to make fun of her name. I don't know. I heard Figueroa, and the inner child in me took over, and I start bellowing out, Figaro, Figaro, Figaro. Anyways, well, Miss Figueroa, it was Figueroa. Miss Figueroa was not happy with me, and so she comes up, and to say that she was intimidating, I didn't know her prior to this at all. She was a freshman, I was a sophomore. To say that she was intimidating, to say the least, would be true. So she has really long hair. She's Hispanic. I'm not sure Hispanic or Mexican. I'm not sure which race, but one or the other. And she comes up, so she gets out of the bleachers. She's walking out of the bleachers, and she starts walking towards me. And she's, yelling at me. I'm yelling at her. And so she swings on me. And we get after it, and we're boxing a little bit, and our teacher breaks us up, and my teacher had been my PE teacher prior, so she knew who I was. So she called us all by our last names. So she's yelling at me, Christian, get your fucking ass down to the office. Blah! And I was just like, oh no. So I go down to the office, and we had just gotten a new superintendent at the school, and thank God, because I had gotten in a lot of trouble prior to this, as far as like getting in trouble with referrals and things like that, being a smart ass to teachers and stuff. And so I get down there, and then Isabel shows up. We're sitting in this office, and new guy, so he's just like, really, second day of school, you guys, what the hell's going on? And we were just both like, man, not talking, not saying anything, not gonna fess up to nothing. And he's just like, am I gonna see you guys in here again? And we both just sit there, same thing, kind of just not saying anything. And then finally he goes, listen, we can do this like one of two ways. I can suspend you guys, and that can be that, and then you guys can come back. And he's like, or we can say that this is never going to happen again, and we can get back to class next period, and that'll be that. I just do not want to see you guys in here again. So we were like, okay, cool. So we both agreed to that. We don't say nothing to each other, and he makes us shake on it, so we shake, and we're just like, whatever. Well, this is in second period, right? So, you know how school is. Anything, schoolwork to this day. Something happens, people are talking. So then fifth period comes around after lunch, and I'm in English. Miss Dyer, what up? And everybody's talking about my fight. And everybody's like, oh, boo, boo, boo. Like, can't believe you fought Isabel. So then guess what? Guess who sits behind me in this class? Well, not behind me. Behind me and to the left. To the right. I'm sorry. Behind me to the right. Weird how I remember these things. Anyways, so I hear, who'd you fight? And I turn around, and I'm like, I don't know. And it's Nancy from freshman year. I said, some girl named Isabel Figueroa. And she's like, you fought Isabel Figueroa? And I was like, yup. And she goes, and you didn't get your ass beat? And I said, does it look like it? She said, well, you will. And I said, oh, fuck. Here we go again. Here we go again. Of course I fight a girl that's friends with all the girls that wanted to fight me the year before. What the fuck kind of luck do I have? But guess what? It was this fat mouth always getting me in trouble. So anyways, then I'm nervous. I'm like, okay, god dang it. I have to be watching my back all the time again. So next day at school comes up and freaking Isabel asked me for 25 cents to get a Coke. Our Cokes were 55 cents. She asked me for 25 cents. After that, she started being my weed girl. I started buying weed from her. And we were cool. We never fought again. Ever. And Nancy never beat me up. And neither did any of her friends or family. So I got out of that one. But yeah, like, yeah, it just wild. And so this is where life started kind of getting better for me, I guess. And I started making more friends. So sophomore year still continues, right? And I don't even know who I was hanging out with, like, at first. But we had PE, and I had, like, a lot of people that I was kind of, like, you know, getting to know, and that I had PE with, or a couple classes with prior, so I was getting more comfortable. But then there's this girl that, I don't know, like, everyone knew her and liked her, and so I was just kind of like, oh, she seems cool. And then we would all sit, like, we had these 2 mirrors and these sinks, and we would all just kind of sit before and after class and just sit and, like, BS and talk and drink sodas and whatever, eat snacks. Well, like, the more I got to know this chick, I was like, dude, she's so freaking cool. And so I told her one day, I was like, hey, like, you're going to be my best friend. And she was just like, you're weird. What? I was just like, I don't know. You're going to be my best friend. I could tell. You're just going to be my best friend. And that person is my best friend to this day. I done cut her baby's umbilical cord. She is my freaking ride or die. My homie to the end. Jennifer Redfield, what up? Jen. So crazy. Jen is same grade as me, right? And we just started hanging out. And then I become friends with her friends, which are Allison and Elsa. And then that's like our quad of a kind for high school. Like me, Jen, Allison, and Elsa, like, I mean, we would all break off and hang out with, you know, different people here and there, but ultimately, like, that was our quad. That was our 4. And it was kind of weird. Like, Jen's a little bit older than me, even though we're the same grade, and I'm always gonna throw that in her face. Yes, you are old as fuck. And anyways, so she had a job. She got a driver's license. So, we are at school one day, and I don't have lunch money. So I call my mom, and I'm like, hey, can you bring me down some lunch money? I don't have no lunch money to the school. So my mom comes down there, and Jen goes out with me, and Jen and my mom know each other. And I'm like, how do y'all know each other? Well, Jen's parents were regulars at the White Elephant, and my mom worked at the White Elephant. So my mom and Jen's parents are homies, you guys. Well, this is all going down while I live in Maricopa with my grandparents again, because my mom and Lee broke up. So me and Jen become hella good friends. Jen gets her driver's license in January, right? So she still got her paper license. And I'm only 15 still. I'm not quite 16 yet. And Jen is driving us around in Maricopa. And Jen's parents used to have this old Caddy. And it was brown. And it was tinted out all around, right? But you were riding in it, and it was like riding in a boat. It was just, you got that movement going. And it was just a super comfy car, whatever. Well, that's what her parents would let her drive. She didn't have a car yet. So she comes and picks me up in Maricopa at my grandparents' house. So my grandparents were staying out of town somewhere. I don't know where they were. And so she comes, picks me up. Her parents are at the White Elephant with my mom. My mom's working, though. And so it's probably like 7 o'clock at night. And Jen comes and gets me. It's dark. And my grandparents would always go out of state and visit people, and they would bring home a lot of fireworks, like illegal fireworks and stuff. And so I freaking get these firecrackers, these black cats, and I grab a lighter, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna get into some stupid shit because I've been doing stupid shit my whole life. So anyways, we're driving around Maricopa, right? And I mean, we're driving by people's houses I know, like my old friends, and just throwing firecrackers and just being dumb. You know, Jen's not. Jen's driving. Jen's the innocent person in all this, but she's guilty by association, which has basically been her whole life since she's been friends with me. So, throwing them all around the town, just doing stupid shit, being dumb. And then we get to the last pack, right? Well, I see this guy walking down the street. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to throw this whole pack of black cats at him, right? I'm just going to light it and throw it out the window. So I do that. Like, light it, throw it out the window, fucking laughing my ass off. I'm just being dumb, right? So I'm like, fuck it. So I throw the lighter out the window, whatever. Well, we're on, I don't know what the name of the street is, but we're on this street right behind Gateway Temple. Or Gateway Drugstore, the round drugstore that used to be in Maricopa. And it's this little straight road, and then off across the little highway right there is the park. So that's where we were cruising. We were cruising on the straight road, and we were going to get to the 119 and go across, or I'm sorry, I don't know what the frick the road is, not the 119. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We are going to cross the street and go to the park. And so we cross this road, and we're right by the park, and dude, not shitting you, probably 10 squad cars pull us over, lights of fucking blazing, screaming on the loudspeaker, you know, pull over, and then they say, driver, get out of the car, get out of the car. And so they're like, with your left hand, driver, remove the keys from your ignition and throw them out the window. So Jen's doing this, right? Jen pulls the keys out, she throws them out the window. So then Jen gets out, and they're like, walk backwards, get on your hands and knees, face down, do. So she's down. Then they're like, passenger, which is me. They're like, climb out of the passenger or driver's side, keep your hands above your head. So I'm trying to scoot out the passenger side, hands above my head, and they're yelling. And I have strep throat at the time, so I've got antibiotics. I'm on antibiotics at the time. And I get out, and they're, you know, walk backwards, get on your knees, face down. So I'm fucking face down. Jen's face down. We're on the cement. We're fucking, they're searching us. They get us up. They realize we're two teenage girls. And then they start searching the car, and they're like making us stay back there. And they're like, what's in your pocket? What's in your pocket? Well, I'd had my bottle of antibiotics in my pocket. And so I'm like, I go to get him out, and I just go to move because I know it's not a weapon. So I just go to get it out, and they're like, yelling at me, go slower. What's it? Is that a weapon? And I'm like, no, it's just antibiotics. So I take it out, whatever. So they search the car, and then they're like, done. Like, nothing happens. So we're like, what is going on? And they're like, we had reports of this car doing drive-by shootings. And like, I just am like, oh my God. And I had told Jen when they pulled us over, I was like, don't say shit. Do not say shit. So I was like, what? Well, obviously we don't have any weapons, guns. Absolutely not true. And they're like, yeah, I don't know, but it was definitely this car, whatever, you know, do. And so we were just like, sorry, dude, like, wrong peeps. So they're like, okay, well, you guys can go, but you guys need to go home because it's getting close to curfew, whatever. So by the time it's all said and done, we bomb back down to my grandparents' house. It's like 9 o'clock. And as soon as we pull up to my grandparents' house, Jen goes to take the keys out of the ignition, and guess what? They're not there! So the car was so old, and the key was like so worn out, it would just slide in and out of the car. And so we were like, fuck. So we walk back up there. We go to walk back up there because no one's at my grandparents' house to drive us back up there. Well, while we're walking back up here, boom, here comes a cop. And he's like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, he's like, I told you to stay in. Are you trying to get arrested tonight? And we're like, no, we are not. We left the keys in the road. So he's like, well, I'm going to have an officer go get them because while we had you out of the vehicle, you guys were positively identified by someone that you guys were the ones driving around shooting. And I was like, what are you talking about? You searched the car, you searched us, like there was nothing. So I'm freaking the fuck out, right? Because I'm just freaking out. Had a million guns pulled on me. Jennifer's pissed at me. It was hilarious. So he gets us in the car. He's like, get in the car. We need to go back to search the car again. I'm like, oh my God. So I know they're going to find firecrackers. I'm like, I know they are. I know it. I just know it. I know it. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. Here's where I get arrested for the first time. And so we go back down to grandparents and he searches the car again. He's like, yeah, there's nothing. He's like, I don't know. And I said, me neither. Like, I didn't fess up to shit. And he straight says, yeah, no hand grenades or Uzis in your car. So you guys are good. They bring us our keys. Done. Dude, Jen to this day won't let me forget that one because she said that's the reason she's got gray hair. Is that I put it on her when I got us pulled over by all the cops with the guns on us, blazing. But that was just something, there ain't nothing to do. I just had to be a dick. But, so anyways, we had lived out in Maricopa for a few months, and my mom is saving money to get us a house to get us back to Taft because I'm going to Taft High still. So, driving back and forth to Taft High every day to school. My grandpa would take me, whatever. I'm getting in trouble in school still. So my mom finally saves up enough money, finds us this little shitty house on A Street, and we move in there. Well, we had my bedroom furniture, and that was it. And so, becoming friends with the Redfields, this is part of my story that really brought me to a place of goodness and hope. And the Redfields are the people that provided that for me. So we move into our house, and my mom, doesn't have anything, doesn't have any money. And so we're in our house, and it's our first Christmas. So we are there, and Jennifer's parents invite us out to the house, and so we do Christmas out at their house. And dude, they bought us like sheets, they bought us towels, they bought us a house phone, they bought us a answering machine, they bought us a fucking VCR, they bought us so many things. Like they made sure we had everything we needed to feel comfortable in our home, to feel like we had something of our own. And my mom was super like, we ain't taking that. And Connie, Jennifer's mom, I don't know if y'all know Connie, but she the boss. And Claire the boss. And so Claire was like, no, we can't take this. And Connie was like, yeah, but you are. And you are, and you are, and you're gonna. And there ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so, that was my first experience with the Redfields, as far as seeing how giving and loving and accepting and open they were to truly helping people and not expecting anything in return. And they're the first people that never knew our circumstances and didn't judge us. Were right there with us in it and didn't judge us, and constantly provided and just gave us so much. And it was such a blessing to have them in our lives at that time. And just, I had never at this point felt as safe and as much myself as I did until I met the Redfields. And it made me, meeting Jen's parents made me realize why Jen was the way she was. Jen was the same way, and by them being that way and being so giving and open and loving and not expecting anything in return, and not putting me in any situations that were uncomfortable or precarious or different from anything that was loving and healthy was a very, very, very new experience, especially because they saw the way that I lived truly. And, you know, like I continued to get in trouble in high school, but as long as I was with Jen, my mom let me do anything. As long, I would be like, hey, Mom, I want to go to a party. Can I go to a party? And she'd be like, well, how are you getting there? And I'd say, Jen's driving. And she'd be like, okay, because Jen didn't drink. And so she was like, okay. And Jen would drive the rest of us around while all the rest of us drank and had a good time. And Jen babysat us. I mean, Jen got me out of so many situations in life. It's not even funny. And, I continued in high school to get in trouble. So my speech teacher, Mr. Shin, he would put topics on the board. So to get back to high school, he would put topics on the board and you could write about one of those topics, or you could choose free speech on certain days. And so this specific day I chose free speech, and I was being a dick and writing terrible things about students. And so I got in trouble. And he gave me a referral and I got sent to the office. And then it turns into this thing where he tells the school that if I'm in his class, he won't teach at that school anymore. So they call my mom down. So my mom, Mr. McCormick, who was my counselor, my guidance counselor, also one of my best friend's dads. And then we got Dr. Short. And then we had Mr. Shin and myself. So we're all in a room. We're in Dr. Short's office. And, I bring up that he lets other people do the same exact thing I did. But because of who I had spoken about, he wasn't on board with it. And so I didn't understand why other people were allowed to do and or cuss in their speeches, but I wasn't. And so it turned into, this thing where there was a little bit of an investigation into what I had said. And it was proven that I was right and that he did specifically kind of single me out when there were other people doing the same thing. And so my mom, had my back in that regard. I shouldn't have written the speech. I got in trouble for writing the speech. I got in trouble for getting a referral from my mom. But my mom also had my back and said, you're not going to make an example out of my kid. Either everyone's held to the same standard or she's not in trouble. And that's when he straight said, I will not teach at this school if she is a student in my class. So guess what? Shauna got another PE class. Shauna had 2 PE classes her sophomore year. Athletic PE and regular PE. Because I was that. But I didn't want to be in his class either. And so it was just situations like that I was always getting into. Always running my mouth, being a hothead, being a shithead. But I got good grades and I played sports. So it was a really hard thing. There was a dude, Mr. Libby, at the school. And I had strep throat again. I got strep throat a lot. And turns out it was from my mom smoking in the house all the fucking time with me there. Because once I moved out, I didn't have it anymore. But, I had strep throat and I was out of class. I had a pass. I was getting a Snapple out of the Snapple machine and going to take my pill. He grabs the pill out of my hand, throws it in the trash. So I called my mom and I said, Mom, Libby just did this. She said, I'll be right down there. Well, when my brothers were in high school, they got in lots of fights, and my cousins as well. And so my mom would always be the one down at the high school dealing with the boys being in fights. And sometimes it was their fault, sometimes it wasn't. But when I came into school, I was definitely singled out by Mr. Libby and by Mr. Wickwire, and my smart mouth didn't help. And so I was just always in trouble. But my mom came down to the school and told Mr. Libby and Mr. Wickwire, you did all of these things with my sons and my nephews, but you will not fucking do it with my daughter. She gets good grades. She plays sports. She's, doing this and that. Yes, she gets in trouble with her mouth, but like to, pull a pill out of her hand and throw it in the trash when she's sick, like what the fuck is that about? Like, you will not treat my child the way you treated my other children. Like, it's just not going to happen, or I will be at this fucking school every day sitting with her in every class. So do you want to deal with me, or do you want to start treating my child with some respect? So, thank God, Claire came through, man. And so after that, Libby was cool to me. Libby would come and ask me, oh, how was your game? Just whatever. And so, anyways, that part was frustrating, dealing with that kind of crap, but it just kind of came along with the territory, I guess. And so when I became friends with Jen and Elsa and Allison, and I had free reign because I basically had a saint as a best friend, we start partying. We start partying our balls off. Jen gets a car. Weekends are nothing but raging and lots of, me being promiscuous. High school, I was insanely promiscuous. I had a couple of boyfriends, but I slept with too many people. I tried to, I guess, make myself seen in ways that were really, really, really unhealthy and really, unconventional. And I didn't know better. I didn't feel like I had any alliances to anyone yet. I didn't feel like I felt like it was my time to do whatever the fuck I wanted. And unbeknownst to me, that was what everybody else was doing. Like I can remember, and I can say that I was a bully at certain points in my life, and I regret that insanely. I know that I was a dick to kids, and I thought it was, okay because kids were dicks to me. I thought it was okay to lash out because I didn't know how to tell anyone what was going on with me. So I lashed out through violence. I lashed out through drinking. I lashed out through sex. I lashed out through defiance to any authoritative figure, as far as, teachers, my mom, things like that. And so this is where, for the first time in my life, I became vulnerable, and I let myself feel something and share something that I had never shared before, and that was with Jen. And I don't know what it was about Jen and her family that made me feel safe enough, but Jennifer was the first person that I told about Toby in my life. Like, Jennifer was the first person that I knew for some reason wasn't going to blame me, wasn't going to make me feel any certain way. And even though I didn't know yet still that it wasn't my fault what had happened to me as a child, I still felt this immense responsibility and immense pressure of being responsible somehow, and being wrong place, wrong time, or it was just something I couldn't decipher in my own mind or heal or help. And and I told Jen, and it was the craziest thing because I don't remember. I know we were at her house, and I don't remember, because I have a lot of memories that are very detailed, but of different situations in my life, and then I have a lot that are not. But telling Jen about Toby molesting me, it was the craziest thing, because I remember telling her, and I remember her crying, and I remember her apologizing and telling me she was sorry it happened to me. And it was weird because it was the first time, I think, that I was vulnerable. I opened myself up and I spoke those words, and it was like being molested and being abused that way, when you don't understand it and you don't understand that you're not to blame and it wasn't your fault, that plays in a loop. Like, that's what it did for me. It just played in a loop in my mind over and over and over. And I thought, maybe if I had enough sex, enough different sex with people that I chose, then maybe it would make me feel different, and maybe it wouldn't make me feel gross, and it wouldn't make me feel like a little girl, like I didn't have a say so, like I didn't get to choose. And so I started choosing really bad things to numb it and to make it go away, and just have that loop. It was going and going and going, and by this time I'm 15 years old, maybe 16 when I told Jen. And it's like when I spoke it for the first time out loud and I didn't hold back, it was like that loop stopped. It was like it released me a little bit. It took that loop off of fucking replay, and it shot it out, and it broke the cycle, is what it did. It broke the fucking cycle. And I didn't need anything from Jen. I didn't need anyone to tell me they were sorry. I didn't need for it to go away. I didn't need a hug. I didn't need anything. I just needed to say it. And it made me, if you've experienced any kind of heartache or any kind of setback, and when you overcome that and you reach that next step, or you persevere, or your strength comes through and it breaks that fucking chain, like the weight being lifted off of you, it's visceral. It was almost, in my whole life, all the times I've been to counseling, all the times I've had these crazy things in my life happen to me, I can honestly say that telling someone for the first time that I was abused by a family member, by someone that was still in my life, that no one else knew, it was like, and I've had many conversations with Jen throughout our life, and she's my sounding board, and she has remained that. She's still that for me to this day. Like, if I struggle with something really hard, I go into a deep dark place and I ball up and I have to process, and then and that's the way I dealt with things as a child too. I ball up, I process, and then I hit my sounding board, which is Jen, and she gives the best fucking advice. And she always has, and she's a great listener. And I don't know what I would have done without releasing that. I don't know. I'm honestly terrified to think about where my life would have ended up if I didn't have that release. And I owe so much to Jen and to the Redfield family. They are still so strong and so big in my life, and they're my family. They're my family I chose, and that chose me. And getting that out is huge, and that's why I really want to leave on this note for this week. It is, for children and for parents, listen to your kids. There's subtle signs, there's big signs, there's little signs. Just because they're pushing back, just because they are overly active or emotional, there can be a lot to that. So just ask questions, man. Ask your kids how school is. Ask your kids
when they go to their friend's house, like what they did. Just ask more questions and understand your children better. If my mom would have been around more and asked me more questions, she would have tuned in better. But her being, me being at school all day and her being gone all night, our interactions were very like transactional. Hey, I bought groceries. Hey, this, like, don't be transactional with your children. Find out what they like. Find out why they like it. Find out why they stopped liking it. And just, 5 minutes. 5 minutes of zero screen time, of real fucking questions. If you start asking the right questions and tuning into their responses and their physical reactions to things, you would learn a lot about your kids. And I only say this because I experienced it myself. So please, this week, just focus on getting closer with the kids in your life and asking questions and just, and I'm not saying your kids are being abused, but God forbid. And if you don't teach them that abuse is real and that people that they love can abuse them, then they don't know what to look for and they don't know how to tell you. We have to give them a voice and we have to let them know that they don't have to be afraid to speak their truth and what is going on in their world, regardless of what it is, good, bad, and different. So please, love your people, check in with your kids, and just be more vigilant. And I will chat with you guys next week. And thanks for staying here and coming along and doing all the things hard with me. This has been so great, and I just can't wait to get past my story finally. I'm sick of talking about myself. God dang it. But I look forward to sharing more people's stories. That's what I'm really looking forward to, is getting on here and sharing other people's stories and really connecting more with a bigger group about other topics. And I hope everybody has a great week, and thank you for coming along, and I will chat with you guys soon. Talk to you later. Bye.